How are all of you? Today we are back with yet another very interesting conversation. Before I start, I'll invite my guest here, so give me a few minutes to do that. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, if you want to share something with us, please put it in the chat box. I have invited Siddesh here. He'll be here in a minute. Hi, Rakshit. I'm well. How are you? We'll just give a minute for Siddesh to join in. There is a slight technical issue. We are sorting it out. Yes, I think he's here. Hello. Hi, Siddesh.
Hello, hi.
Good
Is this
morning.
orientation won't be good now?
No, the other one was better. Yes.
Okay.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Hi, doing good. How are you?
Great. I'll just take maybe 2 minutes just to introduce you. So today we have on live with us Siddesh Sarma. Siddesh is the co-founder of Leadership for Equity. He has been working in the space of education for the last 13 years. And today is the 7th anniversary of Leadership for Equity, the organization that he has co-founded. So congratulations on that, firstly, Siddesh. We are really looking forward to this interesting conversation, basically to also listen to your insights because you have been working in this field for long. There are a lot of government stakeholders. You have worked with different agencies, central agencies, state agencies. You have worked directly with young people. You started out as a TFI fellow. So just to pick up on some of the snippets of your own journey, what you have picked up over the way, and just to listen into that and to learn a lot from it. So welcome. Before we get started, I just want to again hit back on. So today is the 7th anniversary for Leadership for Equity. Over the last 7 years, what has this organization brought into your life?
Yes. Thank you so much. Very happy to be here. I'm happy to be hosted on this platform with Dream a Dream, an organization with whom I have very close connects. So 7 years, what it has brought into my life, many learnings, many friends, co-workers who are almost as good as family for me. And in fact, the person who I married is also used to work for LFE at one point of time. So all of those things have come into my life through LFE. And that's why the 7th year anniversary is that much more special. There's a lot of learning, there's a lot of growth that we have seen over the past 7 years. So, yeah, and that's something that I'm really happy about and excited to talk about over the course of this conversation.
Yes, so as you just shared, a lot of personal as well as professional learnings for you, a lot of changes in your own life. So maybe we'll start at the very beginning, Siddesh, when you were starting an organization, co-founding it. Did you always choose to work with systems, or was the approach slightly different in the very beginning?
Right. Thank you. So the idea was that Madhukar and myself, we had already worked at the ground level. We had worked at the classrooms. I had also studied education systems and policy from a university lens. So one thing that was increasingly clear, and we had also engaged in conversation with a lot of partner organizations who were doing similar work, uh, either to us or work in the education at a grassroots level. So one thing that was becoming increasingly clear is sustainability. Is if, for example, we can work with a few communities, few schools, and that work is really important and it leads to good impact. But after the organization exits, what really happens to that program was not always clear, and there were ideas that we have to also think about the way we understand government schools. Maybe working with a few schools is possible when the school is autonomous, when the school is not part of a larger system. But when we think of government schools or public schools, we have to also think of it as an organism, as a system. So everything is interconnected. So one thing we were very clear is we want to work with government schools because the poorest of the poor children, a lot of minorities, whether it is caste, religious, gender, do go into government schools. 65% of India children, school-going children in India are in government schools. So that was one thing we were very clear we wanted to do. But so if we want to do that, working in one government school or 10 government schools was not an option because of the way governments themselves function. So understanding the way systems function itself is was one thing, and the second is the scale. So if the problem is so big, we have to really understand and arrive at the unit of change where we are working. So can it be one school? Can it be a group of school? Can it be a cluster? And over 3-4 years of experimentation and understanding, we have somewhere arrived at the conviction that it is a district because a lot of services for children, schools, and communities converge. You have ICDS, you have early childhood, you have primary schools, multiple things coming in at a district level. There's some autonomy, decentralization also there. So yeah, so systems lens came in due to two things. One, sustainability of not being able to work at one school at a government level, and B, scale. That one of the big things that people and our advisor also said that NGOs do work, they do provide services at a community, which is important. But we also probably need different styles of NGOs who are aspiring to tackle problems at scale. So that these were the two things which helped us come to the understanding that systems lens is something we need to work with.
Something very interesting that you just spoke about is nearly 65% of India's children still go to government schools. So it is one that is very essential that if you have to reach all young people in India, you have to start working with government schools. And that is a slight shift that we have started noticing, especially in this non-governmental sector where people are more open to working with systems. It again comes with its own set of challenges. So maybe my second question is more around that you have largely worked with the school education system in Maharashtra. So there, what have been some of the biggest advantages of working in a system? One, as you rightly mentioned, was scale, definitely, that you're able to implement programs at a wider scale. But apart from that, are there other advantages? And also, what are some of the challenges that you faced and what did you do to overcome those?
Yeah, great. And the 65%, I would also want to put that into perspective. I've also written about this. In all, either the developed countries or countries who do really well in standardized assessments like PISA, the percentage of enrollment in public or government schools is 85% or above, right? In fact, so it's not just niche countries like Finland with a smaller population, bigger countries who do well in PISA, Asian countries, as well as European countries who have economic development, do have, all of them are built on the backs of a well-functioning public school system. So that is very well clear, and India at 65% is slightly lesser than that benchmark. Of course, that differs country to country. But coming back to the question of advantages and challenges of working so closely with the sector, the advantages are great. I joined, in fact, before LFE was started as a consultant to SCERT Maharashtra, trying to figure out teacher in-service teacher education, those kind of things. So one of the big things that I noticed was proximity to power centers and decision making. We really understand who are these directors of education, the secretaries, the commissioners, how does a power center function, what is important to them, how these decisions get made, and how can one either influence or learn from the decision making and also try to add to the decision making process through some research, some experience, some insights from the ground which they were valuing at that point of time. So a very close look at that, and also a very close look at the people. What were their losses and loyalties? What made them tick as leaders? So really understanding that and understanding that the veneer of government is not a monolithic one. It is more that there are multiple power centers, political systems at play, community aspirations at play, government protocols and procedures at play. So all of these things, really understanding and developing an appreciation for many of these things which are made to safeguard public funding and public sort of institutions. So that was one. The other is also understanding that it is not just a governance issue which can be, you give them a dashboard, you give them a technical solution, it can be fixed. That was a big learning because the bureaucrats and decision makers were very well versed, they're tech savvy, but that was not a barrier for. Of course, it would be good to have that, but that was not a uh, barrier, right? So that was a big advantage, and even small changes, if we suggest, it literally used to translate into government policy. So, say for example, we say that training should have a pre-test and post-test, or we should start introducing something like a Google form to collect feedback from the participants. We may be doing that at an NGO for the last 10 years, but making that small suggestion that really balloons and that becomes part of government protocol. So that is a very big advantage of uh, working with the government. Coming to the challenges, one very obvious challenge which we immediately understood is there will be many decisions which you are party to, or at least you have a knowledge about, which you may not personally agree with, or you may know it goes against some research based insights, but you can't really do there because there are certain, you have to weigh which, pick and choose your battles to fight. Are you really going to risk that relationship of some positive change coming through your presence and letting go certain decisions which might not help the system, but you're letting it go? That is one disadvantage of being too proximate to the system, where we can have a critical lens, but we can't have that critical voice openly saying that this is working, this is not working, because we are a government partner. We have to really be more supportive in our stance. Similarly, like other organizations might be functioning or by gaining information by filing RTIs, getting information. Those kind of things are other things we can't do in terms of holding the system accountable. We have to think of other ways to do that. So that is the disadvantage of, or I think challenges of doing that. The gap which we then learned was that there is a middle layer. It is not just the top decision makers of chief ministers, education ministers, bureaucrats. It is also a middle layer of day-to-day public servants who are in charge of implementing a lot of policy. So how do we work with them? Those were the other things that we learned. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of different things that you spoke about, largely about how to maintain a fine line between having a vision in mind. So this is what you want every government school to have, and where to maybe hold back on where that suggestion or that program might not work as expected, because you still have some form of a field understanding of what works with young people, what works in the space of education, but also drawing a fine line between agreeing. So a lot of negotiation, I believe, is a skill that
Yeah.
is really, really required. You have also now started working with the government of Andhra Pradesh. This is on a statewide teacher development project. Would you like to maybe share a little bit about, has the lens shifted, why the need for this, and what is the intended impact of this project?
Definitely. No, that's actually a good segue, because one is and back when organizations were starting to work at a state level and have these state partnerships, there was always this question around what would be the impact? Can one really even influence the last mile delivery of educational services? Multiple kind of questions, right? So the change here has been the multilateral organizations like the World Bank have been doing these system level projects with the governments. And this is happening in Andhra Pradesh, this has happened in Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, and some other states, Nagaland, Tripura. These are the various places where they started, and other states might open up. So the way this shifts the dynamic is that I am not coming as a well-minded and well-intentioned NGO saying this is what I would help you do. I mean, I am coming in as that, but the state is opening up through the funding channels available to them, saying we are looking for NGOs with this expertise to come and help us do this. Right? There's also a market shift in the way these opportunities are coming. In the 90s, these kind of World Bank projects used to happen where non-state actors used to supplement, replace, or play these kind of functions, which was disempowering public institutions. Now it is very clearly mentioned in these project contracts and so on that how can an agency, either like LFE or any other technical support agency they are called, how can they support the capacity of the public institutions to for that function over a period of 5 to 6 years. So that is something that these kind of multilateral projects are opening up. And an organization like us, due to our good experience of working with Maharashtra at a high state level, we were able to have that backing and come into this project. So the intended outcome is multifold for the project, and we are one of the levers in that project. The intended impact is to actually change the entire culture of functioning of the education system. How can we have consistent assessment? So an organization of the stature of education initiatives is the assessment partner for the state, and they are not just doing assessment themselves, they are actually building the capacity of an assessment cell within SCERT to administer these assessments. Then there is school leadership. So how do we empower school leaders to function like a leader within their educational institution is one. There is foundational literacy and numeracy, which has its own partner for early childhood and so on. LFE comes in to the level for teacher development. So how do we support SCERT, which is anyway there for educational research and training, to revamp the in-service teacher education component, right? So the outcome is changing teacher-student interaction. That's what we are tasked with. And the intended impact is how do we change, shift and move the student learning outcomes within the state. So that is where we are at a grade 4 level they are trying to benchmark. So the approach that we are taking is, again, how are we changing the way education system is functioning from a teacher development lens? Three ways. One is, can the entire in-service training or in-service education move to a needs-based lens, where through multiple ways, through FGDs, through qualitative, quantitative ways, we are getting needs from the teachers. We are also benchmarking that against low-performing student learning outcomes because we have educational assessments, reliable third-party data. So we are looking at that and arriving at capacity building needs. Second, we are putting in place standardized classroom observations. In fact, this is one of the first projects in the world where 100,000 observations on a standardized platform have been conducted. It's called the Teach tool. The World Bank has developed the tool. We have contextualized it for Andhra Pradesh. And it happens through a very SOP-based template where the observers are certified. So there's a 10-day certification program which we run, at the end of which the observers have to give a reliability exam. Only those who score above 80% are allowed to then go and collect this data, right? So that is something that is being done. And then when they observe, there'll be a layer of mentorship, feedback at a proximate level given to the teachers. So at the first, we have need-based training. Second, we have this standardized observation and mentorship. And third, there is some support material in terms of model lesson plans and teacher guidebooks that are being created for every subject, every chapter as per the state curriculum. So combination of these in-classroom resources, proximate support, and large level blended courses, etc. is something. So the entire way in which teachers are supported by a system, that is intended to be changed. So they are calling it change in teacher-student interaction. Whether the Teach tool itself measures whether the teacher is speaking respectfully to the students, whether the teacher is giving feedback to the students, are they empowering the imagination by asking open-ended questions. All of these things are measured through indicators in that tool. So that's the way we are setting up this work in this project.
Also, Siddesh, you have worked with multiple stakeholders, like you work with young people, you work with teachers, you work with systems. In all of these different interaction, has there been certain experiences that have shifted your own lens about systems change? That maybe you thought about system change a little differently, but this experience or this, this particular very powerful, maybe a learning that you might have had, which has shifted the lens a bit.
Yes. So a couple of things that come to mind. Something that has reinforced why we need to continue working with systems, something which has also pointed out the inefficiencies and gaps where, reinforce those kind of things. So when we visit districts and remote, maybe tribal areas. We went into the houses of children with special needs who were supposed to get some benefit from the government and they were not able to, all of that. So it highlights that a large part of the population is actually at a very precarious stage in their social and economic functioning. And if that level of benefit does not accrue to them, which is supposed to come to them, they're eligible for it, there is funding for it, but either they are not aware or they're due to some bureaucratic or paper processes, they're not able to avail of it. They can easily fall off their familial, societal well-being and be either pushed into deep poverty, deep state of distress because they're not able to get the treatment for the children in their family who need it, vaccination, whatever it could be. So that is one thing that statistically at a policy level I knew, but when I really went into those houses, spoke to the families, understood what is the level of precarity at which, that very fine line on which they are operating, which if the support doesn't come from the system within 6 months, it will be extreme distress for them. So that was one thing. The some positive thing is that is again the proximity thing. Here we are operating along with the Samagra Shiksha Department of Education. So, and we are, in addition to the project, we also advise and help the state with various documents, processes, and those kind of things. Anything we do immediately gets into some sort of a process. So there was this school complex meeting that is happening for years on years. We just suggested to the government, can we, try to think of it as a peer learning circle or peer learning community, professional learning community, PLC type of a thing. And the state has liked that idea and they are formulating proceedings, which is going to change everything, right? In the way these complex meetings, etc., are happening. So this has been reinforced that we really need to continue working. We can't really come in with a project mindset that we have come here, we're going to implement this project, deliver this service, this is a pre-made curriculum and go away. That won't work. We have to come with some set of mandate, but be open enough to uh, either support in other ways or co-create whatever we believe is our expertise. I think the happiness curriculum was a similar thing, right? Many organizations came, they co-created with the government, and that is something that has now stayed with the government schools in Delhi. Similarly, I can't come and say, I already have these lesson plans, I already have these courses, I'm just giving it to you, you can license it and use it, which many organization vendors still do, versus coming in with a lens of co-creation that we have some strengths, we'll understand what your requirement, we'll co-create and go. So that is something that we have learned and has shifted in the style of working with the systems.
Yeah, very interesting. And especially, I think something that we also identify with is the whole lens of co-creating it with different stakeholders. So involving different voices, involving voices which might not have heard on a lot of these panels and committees. And also listening to the stakeholders. So that is also
Absolutely.
something that you brought in, where you actually have to listen to what these people are saying. And you have been here for the last 13 years, Siddesh. You have spoken to young children, you've spoken to different stakeholders. Is there something within those experiences, something, a feedback, maybe it can be an interaction that has stayed with you and had also made you maybe unlearn a few things? Like one of the things definitely you spoke about is from a systems lens of why we need to do this work and also why we need to co-create and contextualize. But at a more personal level, was there any feedback given or was there any interaction which shifted something within you? To actually maybe unlearn something that you held true for a very long time in your life?
Yeah. Uh, in terms of, I'm not able to recall the particulars of that interaction, but I would generalize from a bunch of interaction with children that I've had. Is we are not doing enough was a big thing that stayed with me. No matter how many crores of rupees are spent by the system, how many organizations and NGOs may be working in that area, in a place which has some access and all of that, we are not understanding the dreams and aspirations of particular children and doing enough to cater to that. There is some sort of solution, bare minimum approach that we are taking, and that's something that really annoys me or does not sit well with me. is that why is it that we are always looking at low cost solutions when every time we talk to children and every time we talk to families, they have so much of expectation from themselves that they want to do this, and they are achieving so much with a lot of adversity that they're facing, but at the same time not enough is being done to address it. So it actually fuels my desire to strongly sort of harness the systems and system potential to listening to that one child or catering to that aspiration of that one child. That is something that stays with me. I'm not able to recollect the one particular interaction that I've had. It's a more of a aggregation of multiple children that I have spoken to.
And it's a very strong one. I believe that just listening to the dreams and aspirations of young people, you really feel that can we do a little more, can we actually push ourselves, push systems, push each of us can maybe do a little bit more to at least make these dreams and aspirations come true. So
Yeah.
something that
I can
I
add
think
one
sums up.
thing
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, just something that came to me. Recently, we organized a community immersion with a lot of partners, funders, and everything. And we did, so there's a lot of talk of school consolidation where, small schools which have only 10 to 12 students and so on, everybody feels that they're inefficient. Okay, and probably they are mathematically, financially, they are. But we went to these communities to understand why do they not want to send their child to a bigger school which will have more teachers and more facilities versus a small one-room school with one teacher and 10 students where, and what is the benefit? So this was a little bit of a remote, accessible from Pune, but a little bit remote. There, two family members were speaking to us. They said that it is the school, because the school is functional here today. School is sort of a pathway for us to access and be visible to multiple government agencies, because there is a school, there is some awareness of, okay, there are these 10 children here, they need to get these services, they need to get a midday meal, they need to get something. If that school is not there, whether we are visible to the larger system is going to be a thing. So it's not about just 50 children, 50 more friends for my child, or 5 more teachers for my child. It is about this village and this community. The school seems to be the window to the world for them. And if that also goes, whether that window will exist in the future is an anxiety that the community has. So that was a big unlearning. When we go, we are going from a very macro lens. We're looking at spreadsheet and saying, hey, cost per child, schools per children, teacher per child, this is just ridiculous, what are these ratios? But then when we look at it from a community and an individual community aspiration, that they want that window into the governance to be there. So maybe that is was an unlearning moment for us.
And such a powerful insight. Like I think we've never thought about it. Like it's very easy when we look at a system to look at it as a monolith, as you rightly said, but these are all people within system. They are young people, and for them the school is a pathway to just being recognized and being visible in the larger framework of things. So that is such a deep and powerful insight, Siddesh. Thank you for sharing that. A lot of organizations work who especially work with young people, children, still are at a level where they are maybe providing programs which really enriches, empowers young people. Yet they feel hesitant somewhere to start working at a larger scale with systems, with the larger, as you largely saying, the monolith that we think the system is. So for them, do you have anything in terms of maybe an insight, a learning, an advice that you would like to share with organizations doing great work at the grassroots levels, but still hesitant to really approach the system and work with it?
Yes. No, definitely. And I can also say this because I have been at the side of the government when jointly we are, either looking at proposals or doing meetings with various partners, whether they're private companies or NGOs. And in the way that they pitch to the government, because the as either the IAS officers or the whoever is the government leader sitting there has the aspiration and self belief that they want to change, they want to enable change, right? And when we come in saying that the government is not doing ABC things right, and hence you should do this. The tone of pitching sometimes is a little bit offensive to the government, which is not to say that it might not be true. It might be absolutely true that the government has fallen short in multiple places, and that is why you need these kind of services and support. But when we are coming to when we are how can we pitch it in a way where we are coming in more as a support partner, where we understand the government is trying its best. It may has not been probably being able to reach out the way it might have, and maybe we are here to support to either amplify its efforts, add some layers which are missing, those kind of things. So one is that style of conversation which many people might be doing, but in many of the meetings that I have been a part of, I have not seen it. They some people tend to come in as a know-it-all and say that we have the silver bullet, or this is what these are the three things, if you do, just take our program, it will all be okay. So that is one thing. The other is maybe we have the best evidence-based program. So many organizations come and say that Harvard University professor has validated this. We have worked with Oxford and we have tested this. We have published a paper, and this will really work if you do this. But also having the humility to say that this has been done under controlled conditions. And how do we open it up to a Zilla Parishad school system, which is not the conditions where that Harvard University thing was done? And maybe we don't have the caliber of the Harvard University professor implementing those programs. So how do we really implement it with a average, well-intentioned government public servant? That may be an Anganwadi worker with their set of strengths and limitations. That may be a Zilla Parishad teacher with their set of strengths and limitations. How do we keep that kind of an actor in mind while designing these programs? So, okay, we have some ingredients from that Harvard certified program, but now let us come into opening up those ingredients, see what new recipe can be made with these actors, and then go ahead. Whereas many people, organizations also have these scale up teams who come and say, this is a certified program, we want to give this to the government, and so on. And that also somewhere doesn't work. Being open to the same co-creation that we were talking about. How do we take a certified, proven program, but then open it up and be willing to, dilute it by 20%, see what can be possible, see what sticks in a government setup in the kind of communities which probably it was not tested in. So that kind of a thing is something I would say, because after that meeting, that is what the leaders share with me, that I would love to work with them, but they seem to not be willing to budge on anything. So how can I let that end-to-end close-ended program come here, where I know that after they go, it is not going to work, because my people are not going to understand the lingo that they speak. So those kind of things.
I think very valuable lessons there, largely to also approach all these interactions with a lot of empathy. Also going with this whole thing of that maybe I know a little bit, but you also know something. So can we share? Can we really listen to each other and really share and design something which truly works? Working on co-creating it together, contextualizing, as you rightly said, to the region in which you're trying to implement this program. So a lot of very valuable learnings for us, Siddesh. Thank you for being here and sharing it with us. So what are the plans for celebration today at LFE?
Yeah. So, again, thanks. It was really good to reflect and talk about all of these things. The plan is mostly all of us are going to get together. There are multiple locations now. One of the big theme is then and now. Looking back at 2017 when we started, and now where we are, thanks to the various opportunities that we have got. One big thing is we want to celebrate, even on our social media channels and through internally, the learnings from our ongoing study of third-party assessments that we've been doing. We have seen growth of anywhere between 10 to 20% in the areas where we've been working. So it's feeding into our conviction that somewhere we are on the right track. And there's still lots to learn and there's still things to be perfected. But somewhere it is giving us more encouragement that we need to go. So we are going to be discussing things from those studies. It's a 5-year study. We have done 3 years of data collection and third-party student assessment. So that is something we are going to learn from. And importantly, we are also called some early stage funders, employees who are with us during the formation or pre-LFE formation, and who were there to the first couple of years of LFE, hearing from them, and then of course there's going to be cake and snacks and those kind of fun things to do at the office. So that is what, and really thinking about next 3 years, where do we see ourselves in the 10-year anniversary? We also want to be talking a little bit about that. So really eager to celebrate with all the LFE team members and partners, supporters who are there. And thanks again for hosting us on this particular day where we could retrospect on multiple issues and also invite others to be part of the celebration with LFE.
Thank you so much. Congratulations to your entire team. I hope you have a great day today and a wonderful next 3 years. I'm really looking forward to very exciting things that LFE will do on the field in the coming years till they are a decade old in the sector. So all the very best
Thank you.
and congratulations once again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, Siddesh.